Thank you for joining us. This is live with Miami's Community News, and our guest today is Arlene Peterson with the Chapman Partnership. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Arlene, one of the things that we recognize that people are in the type of work that you do, social programs and helping improve the lives of people, there's some motivation inside that drove you to that. Tell us about that.
Well, for me, it was simple. When I was in elementary school trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I said, I want to change the world. And that's how I built my path from there. Um, Learning about the community as a high school student here in Miami. I went to Our Lady of Lourdes Academy. We had a lot of service opportunities that really struck my heart. And then I got an opportunity to work at United Way of Miami-Dade, which really gave me access to most of the nonprofits in our community and our leaders. And I said, I studied journalism for a little while. I worked at the news station, and I thought that was a great opportunity to kind of communicate like you do about things that are needed and engaging the community. But when I got a chance to really be in the heart of it day to day, that was it. No return.
So, how did the Chapman Partnership choose you? In this global sense of emotionally, what drew you to it?
So this is a funny story. They chose me twice. I was there back in 2009. At the time, I was a teacher in the classroom at Shenandoah Elementary. I was an ESOL teacher and had left fundraising, was working for several years, and I got a phone call. And my faith is very, very important to me. It's what guides me and places me where I need to be. And one day they said, we'd love for you to come to Chapman Partnership. I said, but I didn't even submit a resume. Somehow my resume was floating for 3 years. And I met with the president. He talked to me about the mission. And he said, well, why would you like this job? I said, well, if this is where I'm needed right now, then this is where I'll be. And so took a weekend, talked about it. And I'm so glad that I made that decision. It is the most incredible place to work.
We know that sometimes you're drawn to something, right? And although you didn't submit an application there, they did call you and you did respond to that. So you recognize that connection. So let's tell us about what Chapman Partnership, how it was formed and what it does.
So the most incredible thing about Chapman Partnership is that it's everything all on site that is needed to remove obstacles and to find opportunities. And I think that's a successful model. When an individual is going through the crisis of homelessness, whether it's a family or a single male or single female, they come in and are able to immediately with their case manager develop a plan. And it's not just a temporary Band-Aid, where you've got a meal and a bed. It's let's see what have been the obstacles. What are the roadblocks? Let's remove them. Let's partner with others in the community, because Chapman Partnership is able to do what we do, and we've got successful results because we're partnering with all of the other nonprofits out there that are doing their parts well, and then we connect our clients with them, and then they stay with us until they're ready to go. One of the things that I've noticed working there is that, and also being a member of our community, is when we hit crisis, the first things that we look to are our immediate community, our family, maybe our church community, maybe a neighborhood. Most of our clients don't have that immediate support, and we become that. And that's why I'm hooked.
And we're going to get back to the second one. Giving due where dues are should be given. Who is this partnership named after?
Alva Chapman.
And tell us what he did for many years.
So for many years, he was a newspaper publisher.
Yes.
The Night Reader publication, an incredible man who had a vision and drive. And as he neared retirement, after driving through our town under the bridges, he would notice the numbers of homeless individuals. And I think that they thought they would be off in Europe, retiring, enjoying, a nice quiet retirement, and it became about ending homelessness.
And so you've adopted part of that. Yes, you have.
That's right. That's right.
As their cheeks get a little peaky there. So during the last almost 2 years, life has changed for so many people. And at the beginning of this, we said, well, it'll last 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. Then you reflect back on Hurricane Andrew, which was a set period of time for most of us. So a lot of people don't understand the long-term effects of homelessness and what it does to the psyche and how somebody winds up there. So right now, there's many people that are homeless and that are struggling. How do they get to that point?
So it could come from many different factors. It could be domestic abuse and an immediate need to, first of all, immediate instability, and then an immediate need for support, financial instability, bills that mount up, and then that paycheck that doesn't come, or the hours that couldn't be worked because of medical or mental health issues. And so just a lot of crisis points that I know every single one of us deal with on a given day. We deal with crisis. We deal with the things that take us out of our path. But these issues really spiral an individual or family out of stability. And so it's not the lazy person. Homelessness isn't the lazy person that doesn't want to work. It's not the person that doesn't want to be a contributing member of our community. It's the person or family that went through crisis.
So what is the average Miamian? What's their experience with a homeless person? How does that, how do they get near that, and what effect does it have on somebody?
Explain that question a little bit
more. Like on street corners, when you see people that obviously are not taking care of themselves too well. Is there some other experience that somebody has that would take them a little bit deeper than the guy at the street corner?
Sure. I guess what we found is even the ones that got into a crisis situation and come to us, a lot of trauma happens in individuals' lives, whether it's sexual abuse, mental health issues, instability in their own upbringing. And so, you might go into two different paths. It might spiral into deeper trauma and deeper instability, and that would be more of our chronic homeless population, or those that are able to maybe find some support earlier on, and it becomes more of a crisis situation, and we can go back into a stable pattern. So in our community, you might see those on the street corner that have some substance abuse, some mental health issues, and that would be the chronic population.
And that's this continuum of perhaps hallucinating and and people being afraid of them and no place to go at night and people ostracizing them. And we know that there's a program that people could get into if they can get into it. So how do they find out if they're sleeping under the bridge? And my brother Grant last Christmas, maybe it was one before, he went down there and did some filming. He came back, he was in shock. And they gave away shoes, and he was beside himself. Most of us never get that experience. We might see it behind a TV. And I think even the reporters don't want to subject us to it because it's not like, the latest political thing that might be going on. So what are some signs that we could look at so that if somebody needs some help, they don't wind up getting evicted with their family? And then if we see that's happening, what can we do to try to help them so they don't completely fall down?
So that's where, the umbrella over our entire continuum of supporting our homeless or about to be homeless is the Homeless Trust. They're an incredible partner. They really are. When the crisis starts, there is a hotline that individuals can call, and that's where it all begins. That's where then you would be pointed into the right direction for the right resources and the right services. There is also prevention opportunities that you could be directed into by that phone call.
Wait, what sort of outreach programs are there? Because if somebody's like midstream there, I don't think they're going to go, let me call Arlene today and see where I can go to get some help. How do the people that are in crisis wind up communicating with you?
Again, it's through the Homeless Trust hotline. That's the main hub, the beginning of the support. Even if they're midstream, they have already been equipped with tons of resources and have lined up the right partners. When they come to Chapman Partnership, they've already gone through the vetting process that they are homeless. There is no place for them to go, and they need the temporary stay. So that's where our expertise is, and we kick into gear at that point. But the prevention part would be through the Homeless Trust, and all of the partners that they have in place for that.
Thinking about that possibility is exasperating. It's just like it's panicky when you think about it. And when we see people with the carts, going, don't take the cart from them. Man. That's it. Otherwise, they would just be walking around with nothing, without their home being there. And so we, if you look for it, it's there. And I want to share with you a piece I wrote a couple of years ago, and it was about my experience at a stoplight. And so I'm writing what was in my head in this 50 seconds. Oh, he's coming over to me. Am I going to give him any money? I'm writing all this. What should I do? Whatever bill comes out of my pocket, what if it's a 1 or a 5 or 10 or 20 or 50, right? Are you going to give him that? Well, I don't want him to touch me. Should it be coins? What should I do, right? And I have this whole conversation that I wrote about. Oh, the light just turned green. On to my next lesson, right?
Yeah.
And when I'm even getting goosebumps, when you realize we all go through that, right?
Absolutely.
Almost every time, right? And we know that lots of times as we're on our phone at the stoplight and there's a knock on the other window, oh, here we're facing this reality for how many people right now are out on the streets in Miami-Dade County?
We're just over 800. We're 800 plus.
That's a phenomenally low number, right? When you think we have a town of 3+ million people, I mean, it's really low, right?
And about 11 years ago, we were at 8,000. So it's an incredibly low number considering how many gains we've made over the past decade.
So when you name Chapman Partnership, that implies partnerships with a lot of other organizations. Tell us about some of those.
Sure. We partner with, anyone from Florida International University, Miami-Dade College. We have amazing volunteers that come in all the time. We've been closed due to the pandemic, but we're so excited to be opening up now to some of our partners that come in for tutoring. Sylvan Learning Center, on site. The Head Start program is right on site for after school programming. We have Legal Services of Miami. I mean, any Veterans Affairs, anything that needs to help our residents to kind of bolster and continue, most likely becomes a partner. Miami Symphony Orchestra, we're working through, music programming. So lots of amazing partnerships.
So we know that it's oxygen and money. That's sort of the thing there. So what training programs or can somebody that's struggling terribly, right? That's struggling terribly with the with homelessness, that you can help them with the training so that they can begin the road of recovery and to being part of society?
Sure. So we have been so fortunate to use innovation in our latest model. Over the last 3 years, we've been thinking about, okay, so we've got this model, we're able to move people into self-sufficiency, but what more can we do? And one of the things that we're doing is we're doing follow-up case management. And then during that follow-up case management, we've been identifying, if we had additional skills that we could offer our residents while they're with us and change their path from, just earning $10 an hour, $9 an hour to maybe $15 to $20 an hour, let's do it. So that's where the Social Enterprise Academy was born. And it is a on-site, just like the rest of our model is on-site workforce trades program. We have been doing it within just the space that currently exists, whether it's in our assembly center or in our boardroom. We've been training construction trades, and we had 26 graduate from the construction trades program in May. We have 10 right now enrolled in the electrical cohort, and immediately moving while they're with us, and then immediately moving into a pipeline of jobs with a higher livable wage and new skills and a new, kind of view on their own abilities.
So it must be tremendous when you and the staff that's here find people and, love them and care for them and retrain them so they become self-sufficient. Tell us about the fulfillment that you and the team at Chapman Partnership feel when that happens.
I'll tell you about that with this incredible story. So when we did the graduation in May for the first workforce trades cohort in construction, there was a father who was graduating, and his children were sitting out in the audience, and it was limited graduation fanfare because it was the pandemic, so it was in the parking lot, but the marketing team and community team did an amazing job. the wife was there, the 3 children were there, the sister-in-law was there, and I am forever moved by the conversation I had with his 7-year-old daughter, who I asked, "What are you doing here today?" She said, with the most excitement, "My daddy's graduating." And I said, "And what does that mean?" And she said, "He gets to have a great job. And he's been working." I mean, she just went on and on about her dad as this little girl is just entering her education life and her, path, and was beaming with pride about her father graduating. And he was moved by the moment, and I thought, this is it. This is what we're doing. And then I talked to the mom, and she goes, "We're moving out next week. We have a new car. We have our new, I just started working at FedEx, and I just thought, this is it. This is what we're doing. We're rebuilding lives, and not just rebuilding his life. We were there to graduate him, but this little girl's life completely changed by seeing that pattern."
So this is an emotional time for you. When you see those people and the families, knowing that this is not in a vacuum,
Right.
It affects that whole family unit,
The ripple
and
effect.
and to bring back pride and joy for somebody to be self-sufficient and get some training and learning how to do that, because certainly everybody that's connected to that is feeling a lot of that stress and a lot of the enjoyment to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so graduation day must be a big deal at the Chapman Partnership to be able to do that. So we know that mental health is a big issue with people that are living on the street. And is homelessness the right word? Is that what
street homelessness?
Okay.
Yeah.
So how can these folks that you probably know who they are in the global sense, how do they get mental health services so they can start getting a little bit better?
So, we have a lot of programs in our community, and I know this is, the conversation nationwide, that there needs to be better attention to mental health. There's a lot of criminalizing individuals who have mental health. And just recently, I just heard Judge Leifman speaking, and his mission and the way that he has been transforming the cause for mental health is incredible. It's getting ready to open a center that I think is very similar to the Chapman Partnership model next summer, that is going to basically take the population that is in mental health crisis and might be on the border of criminal, kind of situations. And they're going to have beds, and they're going to have services all on site. And I'm just so inspired by that. And that's why I think that when I think of Miami and, the issues that we've dealt with for decades, and we can look back and see that we go through the sticky time and the icky time of like, oh, this is awful, we're dealing with this bad issue, but we figured out how to make it work. And I'm excited about that program opening, because we're going to be able to see now a new partner grow and deal with a very serious issue.
In the recent past, a lot of employers are giving mental health days. 20 years ago, you would have never,
Right.
That would not have occurred. And we know that having mental issues still has a stigma. If you broke your arm, I was out playing football, MMA or whatever it was, and I broke my arm, and you'd wear a cast, and you would do it proudly. At least some guys would, right? So we understand there's this whole stigma that people have about asking for help. Sometimes that's right before they wind up on the streets.
Right.
So I hope that you continue along that way to assist those people. So yesterday was a big day in Miami-Dade County, and tell us about the fundraising that occurred yesterday.
Well, I am thrilled, and I want to thank our community for coming out in full support. We had set a goal of $75,000 for our Give Miami Day. Last year we had raised $55,000, so we kind of stretched it, and we more than doubled that. We got to $138,000 in support from our community. It was the most exciting day. Just hitting refresh every 5 minutes to see the dollars grow.
Bingo, another one. Pull that slot machine.
Was the best. But what I loved is that we gained some new friends in the process. We saw some new donors come out in support of us. We saw people calling throughout the day asking, how they can give. And so I just thank our community for stepping up on our behalf.
It's a tribute to the good work that you do, that people recognize and they trust, right? What's going on. And tell us again how long Chapman Partnership has been serving Miami-Dade County.
This year we celebrated 25 years.
That's amazing.
I know. It's a blink, and we've already celebrated our silver anniversary, and learned so much along the way, changed hundreds of thousands of lives along the way.
COVID has affected everybody one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
A 2-year span with plenty to go, whether it's the active disease or your
Right.
mental health issue. How has that affected the operation and excluding yesterday and fundraising?
One of the biggest challenges is that we all faced in the pandemic, no matter what, was that human connection and the relationships that thrive from human connection. As a fundraiser, that's where I found the biggest loss, even from not being able to see our board members in person, but to have the Zoom calls. I love the convenience of it, and I love the ability to be able to just keep moving, but that human connection is everything.
And we see that we used to have glass here for a year and a half. We had glass in between, and so we were actually we were closer. But the desire that people had, right? The desire that people had to have that connection and to be closer is so apparent. We've done several luncheons, right? Recently, actually since the end of April. The thirst to be at in a group meeting is higher than it's ever been,
Mm-hmm.
because we went so long without it and wondering about the trust.
Right.
And still some of that is going on, and I'm not sure that the disease process is over, but there certainly is that desire. So with your staff, how do you keep that staff together? How do you do that?
So, I've got to give kudos to our president, Samari Hudson. She, God bless her. She
Did I
stepped
just read
in.
about her?
Yeah, you sure did. I
And
think
where
the
was
whole
that?
town did. On the
Nope.
Miami Herald.
Front page, man.
The largest
great picture.
article I have ever seen in our community, and I'm just grateful because it really told our story, our Chapman Partnership story, and she was an excellent representative for our organization. And through the pandemic, it was like they began with war room conversations, trying to figure out how do we keep our community safe, our communal living community safe, and our staff safe. Those that could go home, we immediately went home. There were staff members that had never met each other. I started on April 1st back. I'm a boomerang. I came back after 10 years and was working for months with individuals that I had never physically met. But we had the most incredible camaraderie. And I think it's because of the spirit of the mission, that we all have the same heart for the mission. Our CEO just keeping us constantly informed on how she was keeping us safe. And so we were able to safely do what we needed to do, everybody working in their lanes and collaboratively, and making sure that she really took on the tough stuff so that we could, keep supplementing.
So as we went through the last 24 months, what do you think some changes will occur because of the last 24 months, right? What, looking on the road 6 months or a year or two, what might change or change back to something?
Some of the things that have changed is I laugh with my marketing director, is that we kind of take on some of the old-fashioned ways of connecting. We had to take on some of the phone calls that for years we were getting lost in emails, and things started to just get buried, and we weren't even able to make impact on email anymore. And so just making phone calls, making sure that we're listening a lot more and not just going so fast, listening to what our community needs, listening to what our volunteers are looking to do. I think even as the vice president of development, one of the things that I'm super focused on is making sure that we aren't doing things for the sake of doing things. I really want to make sure that we're constantly staying connected to the mission, that our donors are connected to the mission, and not just kind of, I think in the nonprofit world, we get lost in a lot of the fluff and the tchotchkes and the this and that. And I'm super hyper focused on what is the mission. Let's get rid of the jargon. Let's be very clear on what it is that we're doing. We're ending homelessness. Let's do an event, but make sure that if we're doing the event, that it's super connected to what the mission is, and not just, getting lost in doing something.
So people are asking right now, what is the mission?
Ending homelessness. Every single time a person comes through our doors and then they move into their new home, we've ended homelessness for them. And so we're very clear about that. One of the most important parts of our mission now is also making sure that we touched upon it a little while ago, is that providing that dignified, livable wage, creating that stable foundation. And so this workforce trades program is one of our most important focal points right now, because it's completely changing the game of what we're providing for our clients.
So people, when they're in a desperate place, all right, are looking for that hope, right? They're looking for that companionship and that camaraderie, and that it's going to get better, all right? What are some of the words and actions that a new client gets? Client is that appropriate?
Mm-hmm.
A client gets when they start the services that Chapman Partnership offers.
There's hours worth of conversation that they would go through, and our case managers really seek to listen a lot. They might ask, what got you here? What happened? Basic question. And then they'll start to kind of dig in. Do you have family? Do you live in Miami? Do you have any other connections? And we try to make those connections immediately. One new question that we're asking, I love your question, but one new question we're asking is actually, believe it or not, what other skills and talents do you have? Do you have a musical talent? Do you have another kind of interest or hobby? Because it's really getting to the heart of the human, and not just institutionalizing, getting a home, getting a job, and then go. But how else are you going to be bringing back to the community?
Brings back good memories and a position of strength and of power. Right? There was a young man that had applied for work here not too long ago, and about at least halfway into it, I said, "So what are some of your strengths?" And when he told me, I said, I should have known that up front. I should have asked that, right? Because that what brings out the best in all of us, right? Sure. To be able to share that. And so we know that people, again, when they're stressed, sometimes they just need a couple of words of encouragement to continue going that. But what is it like when somebody walks in the front door and they are completely homeless? Are they going to walk out the door 2 hours later, or are you going to be able to help them start this new path?
Immediately we start on the new path. We immediately start to identify, first of all, we've got some guidelines that they need to follow, and it's for ensuring that they're able to kind of continue down it's a process, right? You've got to be able to meet with your case manager. You've got to be able to, meet curfew. You've got to be able to make sure that you're keeping your space safe and the space safe for everyone else. And so we kind of make sure that we're on board together, right? That we're going to be able to be partners in this and move on together. And that's where the success happens. That's the secret sauce.
So there's another organization down in Camilla's house that has a name, I guess, I don't know, it seems like 40 or 50 years. And it's certainly one of the names.
80 years.
80 years.
They've celebrated 80 years here in this community.
Incredible.
Yeah.
John Dubois, who we've talked to many times over the years, happens to live down south. Had a few conversations with him. And so here's a gentleman, very successful, and he was donating his time doing that. It's so extraordinary when you get around people such as yourself to say, no, this is real. This is a thing to do to try to help people. And there was, back when I was at Miami-Dade college a long time ago, I was struggling in a class. The teacher said to me, "What's wrong?" She said, "But, come on, we're going to go to a special class." I go to her office, which is this big right here. She said, "Sit down." I said, "Where's the class?" "This is the class." And she's, "Michael, what's happening?" I said, "When I sit down to write, I get so frustrated that I rip the paper out of the typewriter." And she's, "Michael, why don't you do this? When you start, when you mess it up, stop, pause for a moment, and start again." That was 50 some odd years ago. And sometimes you just need that word of encouragement to go, okay. And in today's writing environment, it's easy to do that like this rather than have to take it out. So sometimes there are people that have made a big difference in one's life. Who's made a big difference in your life?
While you were saying that story, I was thinking of someone that came through Chapman Partnership years ago, Desmond Mead. I'm not sure if you've had the pleasure of meeting him, but he was a resident. And if you look him up now and Google him, he was Time Magazine's most influential people 2 years ago, the 100 people of Time magazine, and is extraordinary in the way that he took the impact he had at Chapman Partnership and then brought it into making change in the community. So I took him out to meet 8th graders about 11 years ago. They were doing like a pretend to be homeless night. They were sleeping in the courtyard of their school. They were, eating soup and just kind of teaching the kids just kind of that experience. Some student asked him, did anybody give you any money when you were out on the streets? Because he talked about being on the streets and he had been doing drugs and, had the picture you painted a little while ago of the guy in the street corner. And he said, he looked at the student dead in the eye and he goes, yep, I received a lot of handouts. What I did with the handouts was another story. And then I went to Chapman Partnership and and then everything worked. He goes, I had to go through 4 times. So that paper, like, take it, you messed up, take it out, try again, take it out, try again. 4 times he went through Chapman Partnership and he continued to we didn't give up. And he, from there, went on to be a law student at FIU, went on to successfully, he worked very hard for those who have criminal records to be able to vote, and turn around the rights for those that have been formerly imprisoned. He is an incredible advocate for the homeless and for those who are formerly imprisoned, and just won the MacArthur Fellow this year. It is just an incredible
From a depths of
dynamo.
despair.
Correct. And so he taught me everything I needed to know about never giving up on a person. Also, do the right thing in the moment that you think you need to do the right thing, and the rest will sort itself out. But just always do the right thing.
Does he know that, what you just said?
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
He's heard it from you.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
We're
We're going to wrap up here in a minute, but I would like you to talk to some young person that's out there, maybe 15 to 18 years old, young man, young woman, about the future, and to offer them some words of encouragement. And I think you're going to look into that camera right over there. You're on.
I'm on. So those of you that are 15 to 18 years old, I want you to take a good look at what's around you. You've got the resources, you've got what it takes. You've been given specific skills and talents to give back to this community, whether it's to teach, whether it's to encourage, whether it's to build. You are our future, and I want you to take a look at what we need from you, and it's to always be present, always to step up, and always be curious and never give up.
Arlene Peterson with the Chapman Partnership, thank you very much for being here. You're an inspiration.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking care of us in Miami-Dade County. Again, folks, this is Live with Miami's Community News. I want to thank Junior and Michael Fernandez over there for producing the show. And that's it. It's a wrap. Be careful out there, folks, and thank you.